A plane, or curved surface mesh can be generated by translating curves along a specified path. This is a type of sweeping mesh generation. So, we have to define the source curves to translate, and a curve of sweeping path. Let's first define the source curves. Create a straight line and a circular arc. Divide the straight line into 8 segments, and the circular arc into 6 segments. Choose Translate Surface item from Mesh menu. Translate Surface dialog pops up. Set the element type, triangular arrangement, number of divisions, and so on. Select the straight line and circular arc as the basis of translation. Then, Set Curve button becomes activated. And click the button. Then, the caption of the button is turned to Set Path, and the button is deactivated. The next step is to define the translation path. The option of setting translation path is currently chosen as Input. This implies that the translation path should be specified by directly inputting the path. Create a circular arc, which will be automatically applied as the translation path. When the circular arc is completed, Set Path button is activated. Click the button. Then, a plane mesh is generated by translating the source curve in parallel along the path. Because division is set to 10, the newly inputted path is divided into 10 segments. Thus, 10 lines of elements are created. However, the mesh looks severely distorted. Undo the mesh generation to try other options using the same curve. Check Keep Angle to Path item. We will get totally different mesh by translating the source curve while maintaining the right angle to the circular path. Now, we may use the path used in previous mesh generation, either selecting the previously created circular arc or choosing Last option for sweeping path. Let's choose Last option. Then, it is not necessary to input or select the translation path because the path used in the last mesh generation is to be applied automatically. Select the straight line and circular arc again and click Set Curve button. Then, the mesh is generated. The new result shows that the angle between the source curve and translation path is maintained throughout the mesh translation. Another example is the case of three-dimensional surface mesh generated by the method of translation. Let's first create the source curves, forming a horseshoe shape. Create 4 circular arcs consecutively. Select the 3 circular arcs at the lower part. Choose Intersect item from Edit menu. Intersect dialog pops up. The option of object type is already set to Curve, that is, intersection between curves. So, simply click Intersect button. Then, the curves are split by their intersections. The intersection points are marked by small circles as shown. Close Intersect dialog. Let's remove the parts unnecessary for mesh generation. Select the parts of the arcs to delete, and press Delete key. Now, the remaining parts form the horseshoe shape. In order to divide the curves as a group, choose Divide item from Divide menu. Curve Division dialog pops up. Check Apply as a whole item. Set the number of division to 30. Select the curves forming the horseshoe shape. Click Divide button. The horseshoe shape is divided into 30 segments. Now, the source curves are completely prepared. The next step is to create curves for the translation path. The source curves are laid on the XY plane. The path will be placed on the XZ plane. First rotate the view direction to get 3-dimensional view. Move the XZ grid plane to the level convenient for inputting points of the path. Create a straight line and a circular arc. And a straight line. The newly created 3 lines are connected. Divide the straight line into 10 segments. The circular arc to 20. And the straight line into 10 again. Now, the translation path is also completed. Choose Translate Surface item from Mesh menu. Translate Surface dialog pops up. Set the path setting option to Select. And select the source curves forming horseshoe shape. Click Set Curve button. The caption of the button is changed to Set Path. And the button is deactivated. The next step is to determine the translation path. The option for Path Setting is set as Select. This means, the path should be specified by selecting an existing curve, but not by inputting a new one. Select the straight line by clicking it. Set Path button is activated. Click the button. Then, the mesh is generated by translation. Let's proceed with mesh translation for another part. Select the curve created at the front of the newly generated mesh. Click Set Curve button. The source curve is designated. Select the circular arc as the translation path. Click Set Path button. New mesh is generated. However, the mesh appears distorted. It is because the mesh translation did not take into account the change of path direction along the circular arc. Undo the mesh generation. Check Keep Angle to Path option in order to fix the problem. Click Last option to use the previous path again. Select the source curve, and click Set Curve button. The newly generated mesh looks all right this time. Let's go on for the last part of the mesh translation. Reset the option of Sweep Path Setting to Select. Select the front curve of the newly generated mesh again. Click Set Curve button. Select the straight line for translation path. Click Set Path button. Now, the mesh is completed as shown on the screen. The mesh represents a curved surface with profile of horseshoe shape. The shading image reveals the curves used as translation paths for mesh generation. These curves are not obstacles, but redundant in finite element analysis. So, they can be removed by selecting and deleting if necessary. This is the end of the tutorial for mesh generation by the method of Translate Surface.